Right now, there is an invisible um, AI-powered brain making decisions about you.
Hmm.
It actually knows when you're going to buy a product before you've even taken out your credit card.
Which sounds a bit sci-fi, but it's the reality.
It really is, because for decades, companies just stored your data. Every click, every downloaded white paper, every minute you spent hovering over a pricing page in these passive digital filing cabinets.
Right, they called them customer relationship management platforms, or
Yeah,
CRMs.
CRMs. And they just held the data. Humans had to go digging through the drawers to figure out what to actually do with it.
Exactly.
But based on the source material we are unpacking today, those cabinets have essentially woken up. We are looking at the evolution of the CRM in 2026, and the central question for businesses is no longer simply, do we have a CRM?
Great, that's baseline now.
Yeah, the real question is our CRM actively generating revenue?
And that fundamentally rewrites the operational physics of how a business interacts with you as a consumer. What these sources reveal is that AI is no longer being treated as this shiny gimmick bolted onto the side of a software package.
Right, it's not just an add-on anymore.
No, it is the core engine. It has transformed the CRM from a system of record into a system of action. And more importantly, a system of intelligence that drives marketing, sales, and service teams entirely autonomously.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the mechanics of how this actually works are mind-blowing.
They really are.
Our goal for this deep dive is to trace the exact anatomy of this shift. We want to look at how this AI brain actually functions in 2026, starting right at the genesis of the customer journey.
Which is figuring out who is actually ready to buy.
Exactly. Because before they can sell you anything, they have to separate the browsers from the buyers.
And historically, companies were essentially fishing with a net full of holes. I mean, the old method of lead scoring was basically an illusion of precision.
Yeah, it felt very arbitrary.
It was. You would have marketers assigning these arbitrary points, say, +5 points if you open an email, or maybe +10 points if you attend a webinar.
Right.
But those point systems just cannot differentiate between a university student doing research, a competitor spying on your collateral, and a genuine executive with a budget ready to deploy.
Because it was just so rigid.
Completely rigid. The 2026 trend reveals a total departure from that. We're now looking at AI-powered models that process a dynamic, multidimensional web of data.
So it's not just looking at an isolated action, it's looking at the context
Yeah.
and the velocity of the action.
Exactly.
And the sources point to HubSpot CRM's predictive lead scoring as the real benchmark here.
Mm-hmm.
It's actively looking for high-intent customers by combining demographic data with these incredibly subtle behavioral signals.
Yeah, it basically measures the compression of time. Like, if you visit a homepage and then go silent for 3 months, that's one pattern.
Just a casual browser.
Right. But if you visit a pricing page and then 10 minutes later read a highly technical implementation guide, and then forward an email to a colleague.
That's a huge signal.
Exactly. The AI calculates that exact sequence. It recognizes that sudden spike in velocity as a definitive intent trigger. Whereas a human rep looking at a spreadsheet would just see, a list of isolated timestamps.
It's connecting the micro interactions.
Yes.
And the critical part of the HubSpot model is the continuous learning loop. It's not just a set it and forget it algorithm, right?
Not at all.
If the AI flags a profile as high intent and that person ultimately doesn't buy, the system actually analyzes its own failure.
It recalibrates.
Yeah, it recalibrates the weight it gives to those specific signals so it gets smarter for the next lead. And basically stops sales teams from wasting hours chasing dead ends.
Which is a massive efficiency gain.
I do want to look at this through a more critical lens, though.
Sure.
Because the old lead scoring was a bit like a bad dating app algorithm. Assuming that just because someone swiped right or opened an email, they were suddenly ready to commit to a long-term contract.
That's a great way to put it.
But can we really trust a machine to predict complex, nuanced human buying behavior better than a seasoned salesperson? I mean, a veteran rep can read a room. They can hear the hesitation in a client's voice.
Right.
Are we saying the math is better at reading human intent than actual humans?
What's fascinating here is that the AI's role isn't to replace that veteran intuition. Its role is to clear the noise so the human can apply that intuition where it actually matters.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the machine is undeniably better at processing 10,000 data points across 6 months of digital interactions to find the one person who is statistically primed to buy today.
Because a human just can't process that much raw data.
Exactly. And that leaves the human rep with the energy to actually get on the phone and read the room. And this dynamic, the machine doing the math, the human doing the relationship, is perfectly illustrated in the next capability the sources highlight, which is predictive forecasting.
Ah, forecasting. The absolute bane of every sales
Oh,
department.
totally.
Because traditionally, forecasting relies on asking a human being to predict the future, which usually just results in a lot of, well, optimistic fiction.
That's very true.
A manager asks a rep if a deal will close by Friday. The rep, wanting to look competent, says yes,
And that human optimism bias destroys the integrity of the data. You have these subjective, manually updated guesses feeding into the company's revenue projections.
which is terrifying for executives.
Right. But the CRM 2026 model removes the human ego from the equation entirely. These AI forecasting models analyze the cold mechanics of the deal.
They look at the historical performance of that specific sales rep. Right?
Yep. Yes, exactly. Like, does this person historically close deals they promise to close, or do they chronically overpromise?
Wow, so it actually accounts for the rep's personality.
It does.
And it looks at deal velocity, too. It compares the current deal's timeline against the timeline of thousands of deals that have successfully closed in the past.
Precisely.
So if a normal deal takes 30 days to move from a proposal to a signature, and the current deal has been sitting in the proposal stage for 45 days, the AI knows the probability of closing is plummeting.
Regardless of what the sales rep says,
Right.
it also analyzes the depth of buyer engagement. Is the buyer actually opening the updated contracts, or have they gone completely dark?
Which is a huge red flag.
Yeah. The sources specifically highlight Sales Hub's AI-driven forecasting for how it handles this. It creates a purely objective mathematical forecast and then actively compares it against the human rep's submitted forecast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it actually points out the risk factors and flags the discrepancies.
That is a massive reality check for a sales drive.
It really is.
Like, if the rep says, I am 100% closing this $100,000 deal this week, and the AI flags that the buyer hasn't opened an email in 2 weeks, and the velocity is flatline,
The executives can adjust their resource allocation immediately.
instead of just being blindsided on Friday afternoon.
Exactly. But predictive forecasting is essentially useless if the human rep forgets to pick up the phone.
Right.
The data means nothing without the discipline to act on it, which is where the biggest leak in the sales pipeline actually happens.
Right, the drop-off in communication. Because knowing who is likely to buy and forecasting when they will buy doesn't actually put money in the bank.
No, it doesn't.
We have to look at how AI is revolutionizing the art of the perfect follow-up. Because the sources point out an uncomfortable reality about business. Consistent follow-ups are the absolute lifeblood of closing deals.
But human discipline is wildly inconsistent.
Right.
We prioritize the loudest problem in the room. A rep gets distracted by a fire drill with a current client, and that customized follow-up email they meant to send to a warm prospect simply slips their mind.
And that inconsistency is an invisible cost that bleeds revenue from companies every single day.
Enter the agentic tools of 2026.
Yes. And by agentic, we mean AI that doesn't just sit there waiting for you to type a prompt. It actually has the agency to decide when to execute a task and what goal it is trying to achieve.
Right, it's proactive.
The sources show that AI copilots are now stepping in to generate personalized outreach and manage entire follow-up workflows. We see this vividly with HubSpot Breeze. It literally drafts the emails, summarizes the complex needs of the customer based on all their past interactions, and suggests the next logical step.
And on the operational side, Sales Hub takes over the scheduling and execution of that follow-up automatically while dynamically matching the tone of the previous communications.
It's incredible.
Yeah, the system doesn't sleep, it doesn't get overwhelmed by a busy Tuesday, and it never forgets. By ensuring relentless, perfectly timed consistency, the response rates naturally climb.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Okay.
If an AI is analyzing my needs as a buyer, and an agentic AI is deciding when to email me,
Yeah.
and an AI is actually drafting the words,
Right.
doesn't this just mean our inboxes will be completely flooded with bots talking to other bots? How does a business maintain any semblance of genuine human connection if the machine is doing all the talking?
This raises an important question about the saturation of automated outreach. But the outcome we are seeing in 2026 is actually the inverse of that dystopian spam scenario.
Really? How so?
Because the AI handles the grueling administrative discipline, the drafting, the scheduling, and recalling of specific details from a meeting 3 weeks ago. It takes a massive cognitive load off the human worker.
Ah, I see.
The human no longer spends 4 hours a day formatting emails. They spend those 4 hours applying strategic empathy when they actually get on a call with you. It fundamentally changes the feedback loop. HubSpot's conversation intelligence, for example, doesn't just act as a passive listener. It summarizes the entire call into a digestible brief. It automatically tags the specific objections the customer raised, whether it was a pricing concern or a feature request, and logs any commitments the sales rep made directly into the CRM.
It completely eliminates manual data entry.
Yes.
The rep hangs up the phone, and the system has already documented the factual reality of that interaction. You aren't arguing with a rep over whether they sounded confident during the pitch.
Right. You are looking at the aggregated data of how customers actually responded to specific phrasing.
It elevates sales coaching from a gut feeling to an objective science.
But if we look at the architecture of these systems, there is a massive structural vulnerability.
Okay, what is it?
As powerful as predictive scoring, agentic follow-ups, and conversation intelligence are, they are completely dependent on the diet of data they are fed.
Right, the inputs.
If these tools are operating in isolated departmental silos, the AI is effectively blind in one eye.
Which brings us to the most critical part of this evolution. Breaking down the silos to create unified AI insights.
Exactly.
Because you can have the smartest algorithm in the world predicting buyer behavior, but if your internal departments aren't actually sharing their data, the entire system fractures.
The heart of CRM 2026, the foundational requirement that makes everything we've discussed so far actually work, is the single source of truth.
The unified data set.
Right. AI can only calculate the true trajectory of a customer when marketing, sales, and service teams are all feeding into and drawing from one centralized data set.
So what does this all mean in practice? Let's look at how traditional companies usually operate.
Sure.
Historically, marketing, sales, and service departments use entirely different software platforms. Marketing uses campaign tags, sales measures pipeline stages, and service tracks ticket severity.
Completely disconnected languages.
It's like a relay race where the runners absolutely refuse to look at each other while passing the baton.
That's a great analogy.
Marketing throws a list of leads over the wall and says, "Our job is done." Sales gets frustrated when the leads aren't perfectly primed, and then service is left cleaning up the mess when a customer is angry about what they were promised.
And in that fragmented scenario, the AI cannot accurately map the customer lifecycle. It doesn't have the context to translate a marketing campaign tag into a sales pipeline probability.
Right.
The breakthrough highlighted in the sources is when the AI acts as a universal translator, connecting seemingly unrelated dots across those departmental boundaries to spot hidden risks.
Let's walk through a vivid example of this, because this is where the AI proves its worth. Imagine you are a customer, and you experience a severe software outage.
Okay.
You are furious. You submit an urgent service ticket. In a traditional siloed company, that is just a service problem.
But it's actually a massive revenue risk signal. If the sales team's data is isolated from the service team's data, a sales rep might look at their calendar, see that your contract is up for renewal, and blindly call you the very next day to ask for a $100,000 upgrade.
It is incredibly tone deaf. Calling a furious customer who is experiencing a software outage to ask for more money is the easiest way to kill an account permanently.
Exactly. But with unified data, the AI processes the entire landscape simultaneously. It sees the severe service ticket.
Right.
It also sees the marketing engagement pattern. It notes that over the last 48 hours, you have stopped opening the company's daily newsletters, which is a secondary behavioral red flag.
Wow.
The AI combines the service friction with the marketing drop-off, calculates the probability of churn, and immediately intercepts the sales rep.
It alerts the rep like, do not push for renewal right now. This account is at critical risk of churning. Pivot your strategy and focus entirely on resolving the service issue.
Yes. It understands how operational friction impacts the velocity of closing a deal.
If we connect this to the bigger picture.
This is why the architecture of platforms like HubSpot CRM is so critical. By putting every single interaction, every marketing email, every sales call, every support ticket, every website visit onto one unified platform, it provides the AI with absolute context.
Because context is everything.
Growth in 2026 relies entirely on every single department making decisions based on the exact same panoramic view of the customer. If your AI only sees 30% of the picture, its predictions won't just be inaccurate.
They'll be actively destructive to the customer relationship.
Exactly.
It's the ability to deliver the right message to the exact right person at precisely the right millisecond, informed by every single interaction that person has ever had with your brand from day one.
It moves a company from constantly reacting to historical data to actively anticipating future reality.
So, to distill this journey for you, the CRM of 2026 is light years beyond being just a digital address book.
It really is.
By leveraging AI to calculate complex behavioral intent for lead scoring, deploying agentic tools to guarantee relentless follow-ups, analyzing 100% of conversations to provide fact-based coaching, executing objective predictive forecasting, and tying it all together with a single source of truth.
The CRM has transformed into a proactive, autonomous revenue engine.
Exactly. And this brings us to the defining challenge laid out in the source material. For business leaders looking at this landscape, the fundamental question is no longer whether they should adopt AI.
Right. The technology works, and the adoption curve is already happening.
But the real question is whether their organization's underlying data structure and culture are actually ready to support it.
Yeah.
The winners in this new era are the organizations that can break down their internal silos and provide their AI with the unified data it needs to operate.
It's adapt to your data or be left behind digging through your digital filing cabinets.
And it's vital to realize why this matters to you, even if you never plan to work in sales or marketing. This is the operational physics behind your daily life as a consumer. When you interact with a brand and it feels entirely frictionless, when they magically know exactly what you need before you ask, or when a support rep instantly grasps the context of your frustration without making you repeat yourself, it is not magic.
It's this exact unified AI-driven engine orchestrating that experience in the background.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on everything we've just unpacked. We are entering an era where the machine is calculating the lead scores perfectly. It is drafting the most persuasive outreach emails. It is predicting the sales outcomes with flawless mathematical accuracy. And it is instantly diagnosing the customer's needs.
Yeah.
If the AI is doing all the knowing, what is the uniquely human skill that professionals will actually need to master to justify their seat at the table in the years to come?
That is the question.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.